Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, all right, great. You're welcome to Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM.
Thank you very much.
Okay, all right. So if okay, now, Mr. Agbe, can you please tell us what exactly dyslexia is and how is it different from ordinary reading difficulties?
Okay, I would want to wish or say a very big good morning, a hearty good morning to all your cherished listeners. And I'm happy we get to talk about a topic like this.
All right.
So, with dyslexia, what happens is the person who is dyslexic has difficulty associating sounds with the appropriate words or
Mm,
letters, right? So the person has reading difficulties primarily.
mm,
So a non-dyslexic would see a word like was and pronounce it was. We agree it was spelled WAS, right? But a dyslexic would see that and then would read it something like saw, right? The reason being that there's a pathway, right? When we see a word, letters and words, there's a pathway it follows in our brain
okay.
that enables us pronounce it as it should. But with the dyslexic, it's not like that. They are wired differently. So it basically results in the rearranging of those words or those letters, and then they pronounce a different word. You asked that how does it differ from a
Ordinary,
normal
yeah.
difficulty reading or learning abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So for one, the dyslexic would not respond right to conventional teaching methods. Somebody who doesn't have dyslexia, the non-dyslexic, I mean, has difficulty reading, but you do some phonic drills, you introduce some teaching and learning aids, you do all that, and then you realize that the person's reading is improving. But with the dyslexic, it will not respond to those standard teaching methods, right?
Mm.
More is needed. More is needed in assisting the dyslexic. So yeah.
Okay. But at what age does dyslexia usually become noticeable in children?
Okay. So typically when they start reading, when they are being taught formal that is in the school going ages, right, from 5 years and above, that is when it's typically evident. But let me be quick to add here that the dyslexic child is not a lazy child. The
Mm.
dyslexic child is not somebody who is not trying enough.
Mm.
The dyslexic child is not somebody who I mean, is cursed or something of the sort. The dyslexic has a problem that needs a solution to. So usually, typically between the ages of 5 and 7, when the child is explicitly taught to read,
Mm.
it will be noticed that the child would have difficulty reading.
Okay.
But here is the case: there will be a disparity noted, right? Because this child is very eloquent, can speak. I mean, intelligently, but then it comes to the reading, and then sorry, it comes to the reading part and the writing part. Of course, if you can't read well, you'd have difficulty writing, right?
Right.
When it gets to that part, the child would be struggling. But so you'd see an otherwise very intelligent child who speaks well, seems very intelligent, seems very smart,
Mm-hmm.
but then lacks or has difficulty reading. So in the early ages, maybe somewhere 3 to 5,
Mm.
maybe at home you may notice that they would have difficulty. I mean, rhyme with some nursery rhymes, right? They would
Yeah.
have difficulty with those. But let me be quick to state that the fact that the child is having difficulty with nursery rhymes or remembering some words at that age, at the preschool age, doesn't mean the child has dyslexia, right? It's um, um, a cocktail of signs that we put together to make the diagnosis.
Mm.
So that is it. So we would want to rule out, want to say that this child is otherwise, I mean, brilliant, is able to study, has no other limitations to studies, right? And
Mm.
then the only reason the child is not able to study, or sorry, read well, is that he or she is not able to identify or make the appropriate sounds when he sees letters or words.
Okay. Now you made some unique comments, and I think that is it can be a good source of awareness for parents, teachers, and even every individual as well. You said a child with dyslexia is not lazy, is not that it's not trying enough. It's not cursed. You know, sometimes we become very spiritual about these things. It's not cursed and has a problem that needs a solution. And so, with this in mind, what causes dyslexia? Is it genetic or are there other causes?
Okay, so with dyslexia, it's neurobiological in origin. It's neurobiological in origin, meaning there's a genetic component to there's a biological component to it. Not wanting to go into the science about the parts of the lobes of the brain and all that, but what happens, as I tried explaining earlier, is that there's a normal pathway, right? That a non-dyslexic, when he or she sees a letter,
Mm,
he's able to associate that letter with a particular sound, enabling that person to read, right? That is phonology. The
okay.
non-dyslexic is able to do that because it goes through a particular pathway in the brain. With a dyslexic, that pathway is, I mean, for some reason, there's a shunting, right? That pathway is not used, and another pathway is used, and that pathway will not be as efficient in identifying or associating words with sound. So it is neurobiological in origin. There can be some environmental factors confounding, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it is not environmental. But when somebody has dyslexia and is not placed in the right environment, the manifestations of the dyslexia can worsen.
Mm,
Not to say that dyslexia is caused by the environment. No. Like maybe poor teaching or being in an environment where support is not there. No. But if the person has dyslexia, then being in such an environment can worsen the person's condition.
okay. So, but how common is dyslexia globally? And do we have reliable data in Ghana or in Africa? How common is this?
Globally, so we want to follow global trends. Yes, I mean data states that the prevalence is 5 to 15%.
Wow.
So meaning that globally, I mean, if you're taking global trends in a class of 30 people, you could have at least one or somewhere between 1 and 4 people being dyslexic, right? And then it's
Right.
quick to brush it off as these children are being lazy.
Mm,
In Ghana, data is emerging, right? A lot has to be done. I mean, data is emerging in regards to that, but it's however sparse. So as it pertains to Ghana, maybe we could just apply the global prevalence. Let's apply the global prevalence to Ghana, and then we take it from there.
right. But I don't know. In your opinion, do you think there's enough awareness of this? Because I don't know if parents or teachers have more information of this kind of, I don't know whether to call it a disease or a situation. Because it can avoid, if awareness is high, it can avoid bullying, it can avoid setting unwanted, stigma and all that. Do you think we have enough awareness of this
No,
issue?
sadly, we don't, and the specialists to handle the dyslexic to are few and sparse.
Yeah.
Because typically the patient may report to the doctor, right, and be like, probably my child is not studying well, or my child is having difficulty reading, or my child is not smart. They think something is wrong with the brain.
Mm,
So my job or the doctor's job would be to identify, right,
right.
recognize that okay, this may be dyslexia, then identify other conditions that may mimic it, that may look like a dyslexia. Probably the child has problems with his sight,
Right.
problems with hearing, right,
Mm,
or other medical conditions that way. So we want to clear that out. When we do that out, we refer to specialists. In Accra, maybe in the urban areas, you may find educational psychologists, you may find speech therapists who may assist. But moving out of the urban centers, it would be difficult getting help
mm,
because the awareness is not there, right? And sadly, some teachers are not able to recognize this, right? Such
Mm.
a child will be repeatedly beaten,
Mhm.
caned,
Mhm.
called names, castigated, even both at home,
Mhm.
be taken to deliverance camps and all that. But it's dyslexia. It's dyslexia. So the awareness is poor.
Yeah.
It's really poor.
It's amazing. I mean, you also talked about Ghana having few neurosurgeons. So, for anyone who wants to know, Ghana currently has approximately 25 to 35 neurosurgeons. And these neurosurgeons are supposed to serve the entire country. So, this will give you an understanding of how, one, we don't have enough an awareness, and then two, we don't have enough neurosurgeons in order to also, diagnose this for and also let our teachers and parents know that this is what the child is suffering from. So, Mr. Dr. Ahiagbe, sorry, Ahiagbe, what are the early warning signs that parents, teachers should look out for?
Okay, so at home, maybe before the child starts school, or somewhere between the ages of 3 and 5, the child would have difficulty with remembering names of things, names of objects, would have difficulty with rhyming sounds, right?
Mm,
Like cats and hats,
mm,
saw and was. The child would be um, just mispronouncing those. And then when the child gets to school, when phonics is being taught, the child would have difficulty with that. The child would have difficulty with phonics. And then as the child goes older, that is not diagnosed, that child is just marked as a lazy child. Frustration would set in, right? He would
mm-hmm.
avoid writing tasks, reading tasks, even become seriously frustrated. He will not want to go to school, right? He will
Right.
just not want to go to school because he or she is frustrated.
Mm-hmm. Right. Hello. Hello, dog.
Yeah, hello, can I be heard?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay.
You ended at the child being frustrated.
Okay. So, those are the signs I listed, that in the early years, the child would have problems with rhymes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then it's more pronounced when the child is being taught how to read in the school going age. When the child, from 5 to 7, the child is being explicitly taught how to read, and then you realize that there is a resistance to it, right? As
Mm-hmm.
described, the child is are not able to associate letters with the appropriate sounds, or the alphabet with the appropriate sounds they should make, right? He
Mm.
sees six sometimes and says a nine, or sees nine and says it's a six. It's that way.
Okay. Now, okay. So let me just buttress the points you made so that parents, teachers can also notice some of these things. So if your child can't remember names, is unable to rhyme with sounds, or is unable to rhyme sounds like heart, cat, and there is a problem with mispronunciation, and there's difficulty with phonics. Phonics here we're talking about the method of teaching people to read by correlating sounds with symbols. So if your child has between the ages of 3 and 5 has some of these, please take him or her to a neurosurgeon not to be diagnosed, just to be sure that your child is not or has dyslexia. So doc, how is dyslexia diagnosed? How is it diagnosed, and who conducts? I think we know who conducts, but what tools are used in diagnosing dyslexia?
Okay. So with the diagnosis, I think a pediatrician, right, a family general practitioner can even do that. Yes. So basically, what the diagnosis is more of a psychologist, an educational psychologist diagnosis. So we would leave the diagnosis to them. That is within their realm, right? But what we as doctors are interested in is that we want to rule out other conditions, right?
Okay.
Recognize that this may be dyslexia, and be sure that other conditions that may mimic dyslexia is not what we are seeing, right? So once we clear
Mm-hmm.
that the child um, uh, eyesight is good, The child can really hear well. We do hearing tests, hearing assessments. The child can see well. We rule out other problems. I mean, maybe with the thyroid gland and stuff that can cause cognitive issues.
Mm.
We then refer this child to an educational psychologist, speech educational psychologist with a contribution from a speech therapist. Yeah,
Okay.
so they have a lot of tools that they they use there. So remember, we said that for the basis of dyslexia, this child has average to high IQ, right? This child doesn't have a deficit in his capacity to learn. That is his cognitive quotient, his IQ. That is established. This child can see well. This child can hear well. Doesn't have other problems impeding on his cognition, like maybe thyroid issues, right? And then this
Mm.
child can also um, uh, this child is otherwise healthy.
Okay.
So we want all those established, all those bases established before um, uh, we go ahead to say it's dyslexia, right? So we want to be sure that because the child can't see really well, maybe that's why the child cannot read, right? It's not because it's because he cannot see well, or if he cannot hear well, or she cannot hear well, she cannot read because she cannot hear well, right? She cannot hear you telling her this is a b sound, right?
Mm.
So then she will not be able, or he will not be able to reproduce that to you. So once we are sure that this is an otherwise healthy child,
Mm.
then we would refer to the educational psychologist or the with contribution from speech therapist, occupational therapist, and the like. And they have a lot of tools that they use, right, in the assessment. So I would leave the tools and the things they use in the assessment to them. Mhm.
Okay. So, Doc, I'll need you to emphasize this point. Why do so many cases of dyslexia go undiagnosed and misinterpreted as laziness or lack of intelligence?
Mhm. It's basically because of lack of awareness, right?
Mm.
I mean, if you don't know what it is, you may want to call it, I mean, something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then in trying to call it something, you would call it something that is very wrong and far from what it actually is.
Mm.
So it's a problem with recognition, right? So I think more awareness has to be sent out there because if a condition can affect 1 to 4 out of 30 children in class, then really more has to be done. A lot of awareness. Parents have to be made aware
Mm.
that when they notice such, they should know the appropriate quarters to seek help, right?
Right.
When teachers see that, they should know the appropriate quarters to seek help because there are teachers specialized for or specialized in that realm, right? So they should
Right.
know the appropriate quarters to seek help. And then the public at large, siblings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Should be made aware. This should be something that should be drummed in. I mean, just the awareness should be sent out there over and over again so that people know that a condition like this exists and then and look for a way to mitigate its effect. You see, the thing is that you see an otherwise smart child, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the child is not able to write well or read well. I mean, it's safe to just assume that the child is lazy. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. If you don't know there's a condition like dyslexia, you'd want to put it on laziness, right? Because what prevents you? You speak so well, you appear smart.
Yeah.
I mean, you're able to solve complex tasks. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they give them these mechanisms to work with,
Mm-hmm.
maybe these toys to fix and stuff. The child is able to do all that.
Yeah.
So the safest conclusion would be like you're not putting up or you're not putting enough effort. You are lazy,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Or sometimes you may want to attribute it to the unknown and call the child
Which
possessed
is
or
something that is
cursed
very
or
common in,
something
yeah,
of the sort.
right. Which is
So
something
it's
very.
basically has to do with awareness, right?
Hello.
Teachers have to be made more aware of this to be able to pick it up. Healthcare workers should be able to do that, and then just with just more awareness on the radio. So I'm happy we are having a discussion like this today to increase awareness.
Okay. Please, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. So I think that's a point. I thought you couldn't hear me. So, okay. So before we continue, I want us to continue with treatment and some treatment and intervention ideas. But before we talk about that. I have a message here and say that a this is not so talked about topic. Thank you, ZFM, for shedding light in this somewhat dark space. This conversation just got started, but the past few minutes has been nothing short of enlightening. And that was from Mameya from Americana. Thank you so much, Mameya, for your message. So you're still here on Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM, your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio. And if you just tune in, we are having a conversation on understanding dyslexia and its treatment. And we have Dr. Charles Ahiagbe giving us details to that. So back to you, Doc. What are the available treatment or management strategies for dyslexia?
Okay, so let me be quick to add that there is no cure for dyslexia, right? Like maybe you take this tablet for 3 times, I mean for 7 days, and then 3 times a day for 7 days, and then poof, it's gone, right?
Right.
But there are treatment options, right? And then if dyslexia is identified early and treatment starts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chances of, I mean, the child reading well and all that, it's it's just amazing. It's just amazing how they turn when the diagnosis is made early and
Mm.
not attributed to other things. So the treatment is it's therapy and education, right?
Right.
So there are structured, systematic, multisensory approach
Okay.
to reading that the educational psychologist, the speech therapist, and then the people in that field are trained to do. They have special reading programs, right? That like the OG approach that they use. They try to associate sounds
Mm-hmm.
with. They try to add a tactile dimension to the sound, right? So they write, or maybe they wrap their palms together, or they make certain. They draw certain things. They have their approach, right? That would want
Right.
to include other senses, right, in the reading experience, so the sense of sight, touch, feel, and the like.
Okay. But so how effective are special reading programs and therapy sessions, like you said, in improving literacy skills?
Oh, good. When it's picked up early, usually the best results are seen when it's picked out before the ages of between 5 and 7, right? Between the ages of 5 and 7, when it's picked up early,
Mm.
at just at the beginning of the school going period, the effects are amazing, right? The
Okay.
effects are amazing. If the person doesn't tell you he or she is dyslexic, you may not know because he's taught, he's coached, she's guided as to how to go about it, right? So unless the person opens up to you, you would not know. She would read or she would read like somebody who doesn't have dyslexia, right? I mean,
Right. So can dyslexia be completely cured, or is it a lifelong condition that needs ongoing support?
it's a lifelong condition that needs ongoing support, right? The
Wow.
reason why that person is able to read so well is that that person has been coached, has been taught how to go about it. So if he or she doesn't go by those principles, right?
Right.
It's like she would still have difficulty reading. So it's an adaptation. The person is taught how to adapt.
Mm.
So that is it. So it's a lifelong condition that the person would live with, but it's the person is able to live with and have some form of normalcy. Mhm.
Mm. Mm. Okay. And now we are also in the world of technology. So please, how can tech like assistive reading apps and software help dyslexic learners?
Mhm. Okay, so that is the blessing of this day and age, right?
Mm.
That is the blessing of this day and age, which I think we should all embrace, right? So remember,
Right.
we said the problem with dyslexia is that the person is seeing the word or the letter there, right? But how to combine those letters to make appropriate sounds or acceptable sounds is
Mm-hmm.
what the problem is, right?
Right.
So imagine the person has a device, right? The person has to study, and then instead of reading the textbook, the person has a device
Mm-hmm.
that can read the textbook to him. Remember, we said this child is otherwise smart, sometimes even IQs above average, right?
Right.
High IQs. Um, so imagine the child has that textbook read to him. Then he overcomes that barrier, right? That
Right.
barrier of me having to read and seeing the words jumbled and mixed up. And then I have something that is reading for me
Mm.
and telling me or transferring knowledge to me that way. I mean, through the audio pathway. Definitely, it's so there are tools like that, right? So text to speech are tools that I tried are describing, right?
Mm.
Then there's also speech to text. Remember, the person also would also have difficulty writing. You see,
Okay.
so if there's a software I can speak into, right? Most of our smartphones do this. There are a lot of applications you can find online to help with this, right? Instead of spending hours trying to scribble something down, I'd rather speak into a software, and then the software will transcribe my my voice into text, right?
Right.
And then so there's speech to text and there's text to speech. These things that I mean, applications out there that dyslexics can embrace. There's also the use of, I mean, some smartphones, the phones, right? As you can change
Mhm.
the phones, there's the dyslexic font, right, that helps them. It's been specially structured to help their visual comfort and help with their tracking too.
Okay. Now, Doc, in order to improve education and family support, what should teachers know about supporting dyslexic students in mainstream classrooms?
Okay, so I even wished, or my hope is that at the end, right, there would
Right.
be the help would start at the end, then it will trickle down, right?
Mm.
Imagine a child that has been appropriately diagnosed with dyslexia, right, going to sit for his BEC or WASI, and is given a special environment to write in, like a little more time, or I mean, an extra courtesy, right? If it
Right.
can start that way, then I think it will trickle down into the classrooms, right?
Mm.
That teachers would um, recognize this. When they recognize this, such children in their exams, right? The terminal exams or whatever the whatever form of assessment they take, would be given a little more briefing space, right? A little more ample time, because he may need to use a little more time, spend more time reading to understand what he or she is actually reading, right? Or if there are these speech to text software that can be used, or maybe the child will be allowed to take the test on a computer, which would read the question out to him, or the
Mm.
child will be exposed to orals, right? So instead of having an essay, the
Mm.
child's exam would be oral. So he would ask, "What is this? What is that?" And the child would explain. Because mind you, this child's intelligence is not diminished. This is an otherwise intelligent child. So um, the reason why I feel that maybe more is not being done, or more could be done, is if it's actually at the top. The child will be like, okay, if I do all this for the child in the classroom, when he goes to sit for his BEC or he
Mhm.
goes to sit for his WASI, there's no special allocation for him,
Mm.
right? So
Right.
what is the point? So I feel if it starts from the top and trickles down, more can be done, and then we would see more results.
Okay. So and also, how can parents contribute at home to help in dyslexic child's cope and for them to also learn effectively?
Good. So the parent has to be educated, right? The
Right.
patient, sorry, by education, I mean the patient, the parent, sorry,
Parents. It's
the
fine.
parent has to be made aware
Mhm.
of the child's condition, right? The condition should be fully explained. The parent should understand the child's condition, right, and know it for what it is, right? When the parent knows it that way, and then the parent is given the necessary support, he or she would be able to take it from there, right? So the parent must know that this is dyslexia. It is lifelong. I have to support my child, encourage my child. So when the child is learning or reading or doing something of the sort, the effort should not be, the focus should not be so much so on progress, right? We saw this word yesterday. Come on, no, it should be more on effort, right? Encouraging the child, right? Motivating the child. When you see the child putting in effort, you encourage, you motivate. Um, um, I think when parents are equipped that way, they'll translate that knowledge to their other children in the home to be the child's siblings, right? And then they would all create a supportive and conducive environment for the child.
But are there? I mean, it's this. These are very important things, and I'm just curious. Are there any local institutions that help?
Yes, there are. If you are in Accra or in the urban areas, then you're a bit fortunate, right? There is Dyslexia Ghana. I think it's somewhere in Accra. There's a section of there's a section in the University of Ghana, right, with specialists. I mean that help with that. But with but help is still coming, right? Because I said it's an underdiagnosed condition. It is the awareness is poor, so then the avenues for help are few and in between.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
If you can please take that again.
Good. So I said for in the urban areas like Accra, there is
Mm-hmm.
Dyslexia Ghana. It's somewhere in Accra. They even have a website. There is a section in the University of Ghana, right,
Okay.
that caters to, I mean, they have specialists that are trained in this, that the child can be sent there and then taught. I
Mm.
believe some schools would also have in-house these specialists, but I think that's it. That's it. It's there's not much help. There's not an established condition, right? That there is a lot of help out there for the child, unfortunately. But that does not mean that the parents can take initiative, right? The
Mm.
parents can take initiative in as much as there is not much help. I mean,
Mm.
if you're outside the urban areas like Accra, but you can take initiative. You can get on YouTube. There are a lot of valuable lessons for parents, right?
Right.
To engage their children in that light.
Okay. Now, what are some of the emotional challenges children with dyslexia face in their schools?
hmm So for one, would be low self-esteem, right? Because
Right.
maybe this child knows himself to be smart, right? But he cannot understand why he's not able to read, he's not able to write. I mean, which are core tenets of our educational system here. He cannot understand that, so he'll feel inferior. I'm not as good as them, and then its attendant problems. That child will be withdrawn.
Mm.
That child also suffer bullying from other ignorant kids, right? Excuse me, so wabong, right? That kind of stigma will be attached to the child, and also be frustration because imagine you trying something, looking in the book, trying to read, and then um, I mean, you can't make sense of whatever is there. You'll be frustrated,
Mm.
and that frustration could accumulate. And I mean, that child do not want to go to school.
Right.
It could contribute to truancy if supervision is inadequate.
Mm. Okay. And I mean, you said earlier that it can be treated, but it can be managed. So, how does one going through the managerial process, one with the dyslexia going through the managerial process, affect? How would it affect employability, productivity, and career growth in adulthood?
Okay, so definitely looking at most of our workplaces, right? You should be able to at least present some reports, write something, write some minutes of some meeting.
Mm.
So that child would his employability would be increased in the sense that, I mean, he can compete with non-dyslexics at work, in contrast to somebody who has had dyslexia all his life and has not had it diagnosed and then sought treatment for, right? So once the parents invest in in education for the child, I mean special education for
Mm.
the child, he puts or gives that child that competitive edge, right?
Right.
Good with his colleagues. So it's very important. But yes, so
Mm. And also, I mean, let's also speak to employers because this is a
mhm,
business radio and we're targeting the business community
mhm.
as well. So, to employers, how can we also be aware of dyslexia and its learning disabilities,
Mm-hmm.
so that I mean we'll find a way to also accommodate them. But I mean, if it's a system that cannot accommodate such, but I think that generally there has to be some level of awareness so that business leaders can also see how they can collaborate with persons with dyslexia.
Okay, good. So the dyslexic is intelligent, and sometimes you'd have compensation, right?
Mm,
Because the person is not able to read, but nature would compensate the person.
mm,
I mean, with strengths in other places. So to throw the person away because he has difficulty reading
mm,
would be problematic, right? But what if the workplaces accept oral reports, right? Instead of it being written down, they would accept properly documented audio notes, right? How
right.
about that?
Mm,
How about that? How about inculcation of the text to speech or speech to text, a platform that I spoke about earlier, right?
mm,
So, I mean, computers are made available. This dyslexic is able to sit behind it, whatever he wants to say or she wants to say,
mm,
voices it into the computer, it's translated into words,
mm,
and then the person is able to submit that. But I think if more awareness is made at workplaces and employers get to know about this, I mean, those may be some of the sharpest knives in your drawer.
mm.
Don't just look down on them because they have this condition, right? They can do much, 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 much more. So that accommodation has to be made, right? Mhm.
Right. So, we just received. We have another message here, as from Mrs. India. She says that as a mother and an educationist, I wish all parents and educationists could take a listen to this episode. Such a detailed and packed conversation. God richly bless the guest experts as well. Thank you so much, Mrs. India, texting from North Kanishi. We appreciate your comment. We are 20 minutes past the hour 9, and we are still here on Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM, your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio. Please keep sharing your message on 0544321019. Would like to hear from you what your comments are, what your take is also on the conversation on dyslexia. We're having a conversation about understanding dyslexia. And okay, another message from Kwabna Menta from Kwabinya. I am curious. He says, I'm curious. Could you kindly ask the medical expert if he foresees any future medical intervention in the complete eradication of dyslexia? Since we are seeing a breakthrough in HIV now, would it be safe to hope for a vaccine that could surely cure dyslexia in the near future? I don't know, Doc. If you want to pick this up? He's asked.
Okay.
Okay.
So with so maybe there may be some deep brain stimulation or something, but with how with the pathophysiology of dyslexia, or with the how dyslexia occurs, it's not a disease as in a disease in the classic sense of the word, disease, right?
Right.
So looking at a cure, I don't see that in the foreseeable future, given that there are means and avenues to manage it, right, effectively.
Right.
I don't see, I don't foresee, but it would be great if that is taken up, right? But it's not something you could give a vaccine or medicine to, because of how it happens in the brain, right? It's not a disease, it's not a germ causing it, it's not a virus or bacteria or fungi or maybe
Mm.
something like trauma or something causing it. No,
Mm.
it's genetic,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
People inherit it.
Right. Right.
So I don't, yes. So I don't foresee that. I don't foresee that.
Okay, so Kwabena Mental listening to us from Kwabena, doctor says that he does not foresee that because not a virus that he can have a cure for, but this is a genetic issue. So we hope that you got the answer you needed. Now we are still here on Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM, your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio. And then we have Dr. Ahiagbe here giving us more details on dyslexia. So, Dog, let's look at some policy and also add more to public awareness. What can the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service, I beg your pardon, do to better integrate learning and support for dyslexic students?
Okay, okay. So, good question. As we rightly discussed, if it could start from the top, right, where accommodation is made for such learners.
Mm,
Um, uh, so, for example, how about dyslexics being given extra time, right, to submit their classwork? How about having educational psychologist, right, in every school, right? Or maybe you could have an educational psychologist rotating a particular district, moving around, assessing every child that is about to start school. Maybe between, if I say start school, I mean classes 1 to 3, thereabout, right?
mm,
Interacting with every child and then picking out those with these conditions.
mm,
How about that?
mm,
How about that? How about having adequate I mean, computers, hardware with appropriate software, right, to assist this dyslexics in the classroom, right? How
right.
about that? How about that? How about so for the policies they are there, right? It would be interesting that you pull out existing policies. They are there, but um, uh, how much implementation or how far have we gone with implementing them? But I just wish something could start from the top, right, and roll down. You could be a teacher in your small corner, identify the child, give him or her the needed help. But looking in the grand scheme of things, this child, the grand scheme does not accommodate that, right?
Mm,
That child will not be given extra time for his BEC or his WASI. In the university, he will not be given extra time to submit his test papers or exam. I mean, he would not. So then it kind of frustrates your efforts down the stream, right?
mm,
So wish something could happen upstream.
mm, mm.
How could that happen? I think with more speaking more about it, having the conversation. I mean, I think it's speaking more and more about it, and I think that would be the way forward.
Right, all right. And I mean, you suggesting that if the educational system had an educational psychologist, it's going to go a long way to help and support. And it looks like this week we've had a lot of passionate guests because you kept saying, "How about that? How about that?" It's like, when shall we get some of these services to support and help, students that are dyslexic? So with when it comes to media, so, like you're having a conversation now on air, how can the media and the civil society help change the public attitudes toward learning disorders?
Okay, so for one, I mean, platforms have to be created where this conversation is had, right? I think that is the most important, is having the conversation over and over again, the awareness being drummed in, repeated, right? There could be media campaigns, right? Media houses could take it. So I'm grateful for to your platform for creating this opportunity to bring awareness to this.
Mm.
Um, how about
The civil
more
society.
media houses?
Mm.
Good. I mean, maybe we could have there is the awareness week, right? And there's a day for it when we check. But then how about, I mean, just like we have this breast cancer awareness month, how about we have that in January? Is it February? Would have cervical cancer. How about we have
We have
we
an
have
awareness
I mean
month.
intensified campaigns, right?
Mm.
And then how about accommodations being made at workplaces, as we said, for these people?
Mm.
How about the I mean, employers have the understanding the challenges these people face. I mean, our dyslexics face, and then providing accommodation for them, right? It shouldn't become a reason why somebody is not given a job,
Okay.
right? Even if there could be a quota for them. Okay.
Okay. So it looks like the dyslexia awareness month is also in October, but the awareness of it is not as high as that of the breast cancer awareness. Just you think that having it have share the same month with breast cancer awareness is also dimming the light of this message?
Oh, it shouldn't, right? I think there is enough space.
Okay.
There is enough space, and then I mean, it's just high up there. There's enough space for both of them to shine, right? But I think we don't see it as much of a problem because of our attitude, right? We
Mm.
just see that Kolano Sebi our bond. That's just what we say. It is not serious, right? And then we just rub it. So it's our attitude to it. That is why we're not attaching so much seriousness to it. And that poor attitude is coming from what? Poor information or poor education about the disease condition.
Okay. Now, finally, what message would you give to parents, individuals, teachers who suspect they might have dyslexia but haven't sought help yet?
Okay, so to parents, please don't wait. Don't wait. Early intervention is the greatest gift you can give your child. Please don't wait. Early intervention is the greatest gift you can give your child. Remember, we said that we gave some things to look out for, right?
Mm.
The child not, I mean, just jumbling up the words.
Mm-hmm.
Sees there's words written on the paper, says saw.
Yeah. Unable to
You
remember
see all those
names.
things, has problems with rhymes,
Mm.
has problems with rhyming words and the like. You see all that. It doesn't mean the child has dyslexia, please. No. But it should raise a red flag, right? It should something that you'd want to pursue and investigate. Remember, we said that when treatment is started early, the outcomes are better.
Mm.
The outcomes are better when treatment is started early because the brain is still in that formative stage. Neuroplasticity, as they call it, is still going on. So the child can learn. So
Mm.
that can be the best gift. That child is not lazy. That child is not unintelligent. That child is not cursed. Please seek help for the child early.
Please seek help for the child early. Thank you so much, Dr. Charles Ahiagbe, for making time this morning and sharing with us more details on dyslexia. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Okay. And thank you, our dear listeners, for tuning in today on Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM, your lifestyle leisure and business radio. We had this morning we had a conversation. We talked about understanding dyslexia and its treatment. If you want more, or if you want to go back and listen to the message, visit our Facebook channel, which is at ZFMGH. The live stream will be there. You can go back and listen to the message. Also on YouTube, you can check us on at Z Multimedia. That can also help you get more information. Now, if you are not following us on our social channels, please on Instagram, Facebook, X at ZFMGH, on TikTok, YouTube at Z Multimedia. Thanks to those who also share their messages, to Mrs. India and the rest. Thank you so much for sharing your comments, your thoughts with us this morning. And like I always say, whatever you find yourself doing, may it be blessed. I am Ajo, and see you again tomorrow. Have a blessed day.